If it's okay, I will come down here. I am physically unable to present from behind a wall, so please forgive me. I'd like to say thank you also to the translation people, if you can hear me. If you're getting a translation, I hope it works well for you. I will try to speak fairly clearly and slowly anyway. I'm a native English speaker, and I know they are the most difficult to understand. So first of all, hello. Titia will be my remote control, so when I do this one, that's you. Yes, please. This one. Okay, yep. Hello, that's the basic stuff. And I'm Adam Lawrence, and I'm very happy to be here. I've had a fantastic few days working in a small room upstairs, working alongside the Barcelona GovJammers. And what GovJam is, I will tell you in the next few minutes. That's the subject of my presentation. For me, it is representative of a new approach to learning, a new approach to innovation, and a new approach to community and communities of change in the form of an event. So what I talk about the GovJam, I would ask you to see in that wider context, the wider context of how do we teach, share, learn, and change things. Just for my background, I work for a company called Work Play Experience. That's not so important. We are lucky to have some fantastic customers, often in the customer experience or service innovation fields. Now, I would like you to do a small translation in your head. When I speak of customers, I always mean whoever is taking something from me. That might be a commercial customer, it might be a citizen, it might be a patient, it might be a client, it might be a partner inside my organization. The person whom I perform a service for, in my vocabulary, is a customer. In your vocabulary, that might be citizen. So please just make the translation there. I mean the same thing. Some people that we work for there, mostly in Central Europe, but also further afield. I've just come back from Thailand, working for the Prime Minister's office for the National Centre for Design and Creativity. We teach at various schools. There's a mixture of business schools and design schools that we teach at. And I think that's interesting. It's how these skills from business are coming into the world of design, solving problems through design, and how the problem-solving approach of design is coming more and more into the real world. Thank you. My company is most famous for this. We have introduced tools from the world of theatre into the innovation process. And I don't mean the stage. I mean the rehearsal room. I mean, how is a theatre play developed? How does it become real? And how do the people involved in this play learn to make it their own and say it with their own voice in a genuine way? So if you look for us, you will find methods like this. And you will find, oh, there's an interesting box coming. You will find, can I press the next one? I got it. And you will find plenty of publications where we share our methods in that sense. And the jam I'm talking about today is typical for these methods. It is a human-based way to change, a human-based way to learn. It is not based around facts. It is not based around always only rational thinking. But it's also based around emotional thinking, based around experience, based around full-body learning. But, you'll also find us in this book, which we helped co-edit. I recommend this book if you want an introduction into this way of thinking. It's called This is Service Design Thinking, and it was written by our associate, Mark Stickdorn, who works with our company. But I don't want to talk about me. That's enough. That's boring, okay? I want to talk about Australia in March 2011, the Australian autumn, hot time of year, and these two ladies, Mick and Ruth. Now, Mick and Ruth are two young Australian women. They work for a very large organisation. They're both scientists by background, life science and chemistry, but they've ended up in this large organisation where they spend their weeks in a rather boring town in Australia. But they don't know what to do with their weekends, because the trouble with weekends in Australia is there's either nothing to do, or what you try and do will kill you. Yeah? Australia is the most dangerous country in the planet. Anything there will sting you, or bite you, or eat you, or murder you, or carry you away into a cave in the hills and devour you for weeks. So if you are a young woman in Australia on a boring town on a weekend, what do you do? Well, Mick and Ruth had heard about an event. The event they'd heard about was taking place all over the world that weekend in March, in about 120 locations. They thought, that's interesting, something to do for the weekend. Let's go to this event. Is it available near us in Australia? Yes, it is. Fantastic. Let's go along. So they went along to their local Global Service Jam. They arrived in a room full of people, a room full of strangers. There were people there from further afield, many local people, and nobody knew anybody. There were some facilitators who were to help them, and they understood what would happen that weekend. They understood that on Friday they would be given a challenge, a theme, a fairly simple, abstract concept. They would then have 48 hours to ideate, conceive, and build a prototype of a new service based on this theme. Not an idea. Ideas are easy. Not a concept. Everything works in concept world. But to build a prototype. And they would then share this prototype with the world at the end. I've got a short film here. Do we have sound, by the way? Might need to stop it for a second. Go back one. There's a short film here which shows a similar event in another city in London, but to give you some idea of what happens there. I'm sorry, I forgot to plug in the sound earlier. This is my fault. And go.
And lots of people meeting up, not knowing each other and coming up with incredible ideas.
I think it was awesome, incredible, inspiring. These people are absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, this is my first jam and I found it absolutely amazing. It's unique because there's people from all sorts of backgrounds that are coming here and getting different things out of it, and actually we're getting some real good business ideas that could be taken forward and commercialised tomorrow, which is amazing.
Seeing people go through this quick and dirty design process where they just create these amazing ideas and then go out onto the street and test them and prototype them and present them, and everyone here has met a lot of amazing professional people, and it just creates a network of its own.
The idea of strangers all being in the same room, they don't know each other, they don't know each other's backgrounds, it's just fantastic what you can actually achieve.
It's been brilliantly inspiring to be here. It's wonderful seeing what everyone's done, and I'm incredibly proud of the innovation, the evolution, the ideas that everyone's been evolving and developing and prototyping and taking. It's like this co-created crash course of sustainability. It's fantastic, and I hope everyone takes it and spreads it into everything that they do, and I would recommend anyone to do it.
Native speakers speaking at native speaker velocity. I apologise for that, but I think you will get the idea. This was from a similar event called the Global Sustainability Jam. So the theme there was sustainability, not just services, but also products and so on. So Mick and Ruth went to this event, and they had a great weekend. They had similar impressions from these people, that this was a very different environment. an unusual place to be, an unusual mindset to be in. And they said, we need to do this at work. Now, in the city they were in Canberra, many of the people in the room also worked for the same organisation that Mick and Ruth worked for, because Mick and Ruth worked for the Australian government. They actually worked for the Department of Industry in the Innovation Division. They actually worked for the Innovation Department of the Innovation Division. So they were innovating how the Australian government innovates. They said this is an amazing situation to be in. Some of the ideas from this jam are very interesting, but especially the change it made in our colleagues is very, very interesting. So they got on the phone. They called an Australian agency called Proto Partners in Sydney, who'd helped set up their local jam. And they called the people in Germany who'd set up the Global Jam. That's me and my colleagues. And they said, we need to start the GovJam. And 2 years later, after the pilot in Canberra in 2012, the GovJam is now the Global GovJam. And the one which took place this week brought together public employees, citizens, and innovation, designy, start-up-y kind of people. Yeah? I don't have a better word for that group yet. In 25 countries worldwide, all volunteers, all doing it in their own time, if you like, and we had a fantastic event. So why would public employees, citizens, and normally quite expensive consultants give their time to do this? The first one, I think, learning. Many people understand the jam as a project engine to make projects, and that can happen. But for me, the most interesting part of this way of learning is the learning. This way of working is the learning. I'm not going to talk about it myself. I'm going to let some jammers speak about that. This is a government employee from the UK who described the GovJam as one of the best learning experiences I've ever had. Somebody else, this was a consultant, said it's like mainlining. Mainlining is directly injecting the learnings of months of project work in just a few days. Somebody else said, this was yesterday, a government employee in the UK said, it's so good to be able to do things and not just listen to theory like you guys are now. Yeah. This experience is really going to help me at work. So I think the learning is a very important aspect of that. Rethinking. Now, there are amazing people working in government all over the world, but governments are huge organizations, and I work with huge organizations all the time, whether it's Deutsche Telekom or whether it's Ernst & Young. They all have their own special culture. They all have their habits. They all have their special way of doing things. And sometimes it's very hard to step back and think, hey, wait a minute, I'm also a customer. I'm also a citizen. Why am I doing things in this position that I would hate in this position? So rethinking can be an important opportunity for people. This is a long one, I'm sorry. But someone said, the real benefit of GovJam was to expose a cross-section of people, so different people from different parts of the organization, the council, that just means the local authority, to a different kind of thinking, and build capacity to approach challenges in a different way. Now, this is important, because governments all over the world, if they have one thing in common, it is they are trying to do more with less. Everybody has fewer and fewer resources, less and less time, and more demands from citizens. So new ways to approach those problems are going to be vital. People said that in the jam, it's an opportunity to get away from the detail, get away from all the small stuff you have to think about, and just for a couple of days, think about the bigger picture behind that, to say, what actually are we offering here? What is the outcome for the citizen? And how can I make that outcome for the citizen happen? You can't ignore all those details. I'm not suggesting that. Laws, regulations, processes, they're very important. But where is my opportunity to step back? This is one of the more remarkable effects of the GovJam. It's turned out to be an incredible connector of people. This is yesterday. There are people here from the city where I work. I've never met them. Can we exchange emails? These are people who all have the responsibility for innovation or for civic engagement in their authority, in their local government, but they've never met before. Then they come to an event like this and they get the chance to meet. Now, that should be happening, but it's not happening in organizations. The next one, please. Someone said, this is in the UK again, someone had a real impact on processes and directly led to a number of internal initiatives. Now, I said at the beginning that the GovJam, this kind of working, is not primarily designed to create outcomes, to create projects. Sometimes it does. And the one opportunity we had to do good research on this was the first GovJam in Australia, the pilot, where we had about 100 people, 80 people. So 80 people made about 12 projects in the 3 days. 12 small teams made 12 projects. And of those 12 projects, 2 were implemented. That's a very high ratio, I would warn you. That's an unusually high ratio. 2 of 12 is 10 times more than we would normally expect. I think some people brought some ideas with them, some projects they were already working on. But this is the cool thing. Those 80 people, in the weeks and months after the jam, as a direct result of the jam, were responsible for initiating 18 new projects, many of which are now real. So people go into the jam and they come out with new tools, new mindsets, and new contacts. Real contacts, people that you've had a fight with, people that you've argued with and then found a solution and then built something and had a success and had a beer at the end. Yeah? This is somebody that I really call, not like the guy who I meet at the networking session and take his card. I never call that guy. So what was happening here is these 18 new projects, 12 of which were interdepartmental, between different levels of Australian government, between federal, state and city, or between cities, between states. Yeah? They happen because of conversations, because of abandoned ideas at the jam. So an Indian jam colleague puts it very well. He says this way of working, this super short, super intensive, 48 hours to make some new projects, this way of working does not necessarily create innovations, but it does create innovators. People come out feeling empowered and with the skills they need. So, the last one I want to talk about, this was one that completely surprised us. We'd done jamming before, outside government, and taking jamming into government, we were amazed by this. This quote is from a non-government person, from an external expert brought in to help out at the GovJam. And he said, "I can't believe how many dedicated and talented people work for the government. I have a new respect for the public service." And of course, the government workers, the public servants in this context, they experience this. They experience that the citizens say, "I think it's really cool that you're here doing this. Yeah, this is a different picture than I had from government." They experience that the cool, designery, startup-y, innovative kind of people with the cool glasses and the beards, yeah, that they say, "That's a brilliant idea. I love your technique. Let's work on this." So it's a massive motivating aspect for the people as well. How does it work? We don't know. We don't know yet. There are research programs happening on the jams. We've had a few master's theses written on the jams. Now there's a research program starting with the University of Linköping and the University of Nuremberg, who are doing more and more researching on the jam now. But these are what I believe. These are what I believe are the factors that make this kind of work. Jams are a physical event. We are not online. The jams are linked between the jams online, so the guy in Singapore can share with the guy in San Francisco, and the guy in South Africa can share with the guy in Stockholm. And that's very valuable. But the people in the jam are in the same room. They are touching the same things. It is so much easier to understand each other when we are physically building the same thing. We can talk for 3 weeks and believe we mean the same thing. When we're in the same room, you make a note, I say, stop, wait, whoa, stop. You build something, I see what you mean. This, I think, is crucial. Bring people together physically. It's impossible. The jam is impossible, and this is why it works. Because I know it's basically impossible to design a new service in 48 hours, I succeed. Because I know it's impossible, I don't get lost in detail. Because I know it's impossible, I shorten all the discussions. Look, let's just decide. We know it's not going to work anyway. So let's decide and move on. And then suddenly, 48 hours later, you've achieved it. Because you've been freed by the impossibility of the task from any responsibility to look good or to be totally democratic and get everyone's opinion, or to be very, very thoughtful. No, let's make a quick decision and move on. And quick decide and move on, and move on. That's a very valuable tool. Jams are playful. And I thought twice if I should put this picture up here. I don't want to terrify all you serious people with a rubber chicken. But the rubber chicken has become kind of a symbol of the jams. There was one here yesterday with emergency chicken in Catalan written above it, yeah? And it's the idea of playfulness, serious playfulness. Now, I'm a psychologist by training, and in psychology, we talk about mindsets. People have different mindsets, different sets of responses that depend where you are, on what the triggers you have around you. Now, if I'm going to take you. We got a nice rapport here. If we two are sitting in a meeting, yeah, with nice suits on and ties, yeah, on a big long table, and everybody of us has one of these in front of himself, yeah, and I say to you, that's not the best idea you ever had. That's quite painful. In that context, any kind of criticism, any kind of admitting you were wrong, any kind of mistake is painful. Yeah? But if you and I are down the pub having our beer, yeah, and you say to me, Adam, sometimes you're an idiot, yeah, then we laugh about it. Because our mindset is different. We're the same people in a different context. So lots of these cues around the jam, the playfulness, the rubber chickens, the silly hats, which some jammers like. Some jammers don't, that's fine. There are plenty of jammers in suits. Yeah? But these let us fail without it hurting. And if you want to learn, you have to fail. And if you want to innovate, you have to fail. So what can we do to make that less painful? By the way, people who are playing are also measurably more productive, measurably more creative, and measurably more likely to try new things. I'm a psychologist. I'm very careful when I use the word measurably. So, moving on quickly. The massive focus of the jams, and I think one of the great keys to its success, is prototyping. This means we don't sit and talk. Talking is great, but if we are talking, we are basically comparing your opinion to my opinion. I say, I have this opinion, and my opinion is a very nice, big opinion, and I've put all these things in my opinion, and it's awesome. And you say, well, I have this opinion, and my opinion is much older than your opinion. It's a really nice, fat opinion. and we compare our opinions. This is how most of human culture moves forward. Yeah. At the Jam, we say, shut up and show me. Yeah? Which means if you think A and I think B, let's build A, let's build B, let's build it really fast, really lo-fi, really shitty, excuse me. Yeah? Shitty first drafts, then let's test it. What we see here in one of my favorite pictures from last year's GovJam is a civic employee from Los Angeles in a tie, standing in a cardboard box in the street. The guys behind him are those designery, innovatory, startup-y types. Yeah? And the guy in front of him is a citizen. And the citizen is saying, excuse the bad word, it's a quote, the citizen is saying, what the fuck, dude? What's happening? Yeah? And our brave man in the box says, I am City Hall. This is a prototype for an outbound center for City Hall. And the citizen says, so what can I do here? And the employee says, I don't know yet. What do you want to do here? And then they can start getting information. What is the need, the perceived need? And the next day he can bring his laptop, and the next day he can bring the forms, and they can try to register the car online and see how far they get and see where the built-in firewall stops them. And rather than spending 3 weeks in an office comparing opinions about what citizens want and what might work or what might not work, they get a cardboard box, they get out in the street and they try it. Or they design their software on a very simple app, which means you can give a phone to somebody and say, try this, and see how they get on with it. And if it works, after 3, 4, 5, 50 iterations, you take that phone with that very simple app, just drawings in there, and you give it to your technical guys, and you say, technical guys, build this. I don't care about the platform, I don't care about the technology, make it look pretty, just build it. It needs to do this. So prototyping is the big thing about the jams. It's a totally unfamiliar way of working to most people in government. You would never build a car without building 100 prototypes. Why would you launch a multi-100 million euro government service without prototyping it 100 times? And this comes into the last and biggest rule of the jam, which has become kind of a mantra everywhere. The idea that at jams we are doing stuff, we're not talking about it. We're building prototypes. We're physically in the room. We are getting out and talking to citizens on the street. There were guys here yesterday and the day before outside trying ideas on citizens. Very scary, but the citizens love it. They really appreciate this. And again, that motivatory factor. Stop talking about this, get up, build it. Get up, move out, get up and test it. And this has become the mantra of this way of working. Next one, please. Now, in all those contexts, and to kind of sum up this is a quote from the jam yesterday, where one government worker said this: I don't remember ever having this much fun while being so productive. And with all these rubber chickens and all this getting out in the street and talking to people, you might think this sounds like a fun waste of time. But a quote that we have over and over again from jammers is, I did 3 weeks' work in 2 days. I did 4 weeks' work in 2 days. Yeah. That was like a complete project in 2 days. And of course, these ideas are not robust. Of course, they need more research. Of course, they need more checking. They need to see about compliance and all these things you don't have time for in the jam. But again, that's not the point. Maybe the idea is useful, but this human being is certainly useful when they come out with new ideas, new approaches, to add to their existing very good ideas and approaches. This is not either or, this is and. So the Global GovJam continues. We had a fantastic one yesterday. If you go to govjam.org, with just one G, govjam.org, you can see the results of the 30 cities who took part yesterday, from New Zealand to Chile, from Cleveland to, what was our most northern one? To Stockholm, all over the world, Taiwan, everywhere. You can see some of the results. And this is news for the whole world. Nobody knows this, so you guys can be the first people in the world to put this in your calendar. But I'm happy to announce that the next GovJam will take place this time next year, on the 9th to 11th of June, on planet Earth, anywhere on planet Earth. So if you're interested in this, then talk to the local guys here, or talk to us at govjam.org, and we'd love to have you. In summary, what we're suggesting with the GovJam approach, in whatever form you do it, is finding short forms, because nobody has time, where people can take 2 days from their work for a training experience. That's how it's usually packaged, and I believe it is genuinely a training experience. Yeah. That brings them into contact with a mixed group of people, cross-functional, cross-departmental, where they have pretty low requirements. Nobody expects anything great out of this, which is why they get great things out of it. They're working with citizens, they're working with specialists, and they are not talking about it. They are doing it. Because they say, tell me, and I will forget. Show me, and I will remember. Involve me, and I will understand. And a GovJam, I think, is a massively involving situation. Thank you for your time this morning. Thank you for fitting me into the schedule at this late minute. Do you have any questions?
If you have any questions, please be really quick. And
okay,
guys,
then that's fine.
We have a bunch of guys who live in Berlin, actually, and maybe you should tell them that you live in Germany too.
Yes, I live in Germany. I'm based in Central Europe, so my bed is in Nuremberg, but I'm very rarely there. But we work a lot in Germany, Switzerland, and so on, Poland, Scandinavia, Australia, India, Brazil, places like this. Yeah. This is my hashtag. If you're Twittery, you can reach me on that. It's a little small, I'm sorry. But otherwise, the guys here can give it to you. Thank you for your time. Thank you very much.